The next thing we need to talk about is common property or common resources. Common property is rival, that is, one person's consumption has a negative effect on somebody else's consumption of the same good, but it's not excludable. We can't stop people from consuming it. For example, a crowded public beach is rival. We're all fighting over the same sand space to put our beach towels down on, but it's not excludable. We're not charging people for entry, and so crowded public beaches are an example of common property. Overfishing in oceans is maybe one of the most dramatic examples of common property. Environmentalists are often concerned about the falling stocks of fish populations in the ocean. And part of that is because we can't stop people from fishing in the ocean, but once I catch a fish, that same fish is not available for you to catch. And so overfishing in the oceans is a very, very big problem. Common property suffers from free rider problems when people don't have to pay. And each person's use reduces the other person's enjoyment of the common property or the common resource. There's an externality here. An externality is when somebody who is a third party is affected by the decisions of others. And so when you decide to use the beach, everybody else who might have used the beach is affected by that. You're imposing a cost on other people by consuming a common resource. You're taking something out of the common pool. When I catch a fish from a pond, that is, there aren't as many fish for other people to catch as well. This is known as the tragedy of the commons problems. The tragedy of the commons is a situation where when we make public space available for everybody to consume, the space gets overused. Nobody has an incentive to conserve its use because I get the full benefit of the fish, but the cost, this externality part, is spread across everybody else. So I get a large share of the benefit from consuming my portion, but I spread the cost over a lot of different people. This is the tragedy of the commons. By making property common, there's no incentive for firms to produce, and there's no incentive for the user to conserve, which is perhaps even an even more important way of putting the situation. One solution to common property problems is to assign property rights. Rather than make the space available to the public, we divide it up and give private property rights to some people. Private property owners have an incentive to preserve their property, to make sure that their lakes don't get overfished, or to make sure that their land doesn't get overgrazed. If something is a private good, then somebody is responsible for managing it and making sure that the resource is sustainable. We could also use command and control policy. We could pass laws, and we do this a lot with regards to fishing and hunting. We make rules that say that you can only catch fish over a certain length, or that you can only hunt so many deer, for instance, and you have to buy a deer tag if you're going to hunt one. We do this with lots of environmental regulations. Clean air is a common resource, and we have lots of environmental regulations on vehicles, for instance. So command and control policy can be a method to deal with common property problems. We can also have corrective taxes or user fees. There are, for instance, entry fees to get into national parks. So all of these ways, all of these methods can be solutions to the problems of common property.